I need a new idea for the top 10 fun ranks this week. I ran out of ideas.
Top 10 local places to your area where you can get happy endings. And it's like a TripAdvisor column, too.
Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings Week 11 Fantasy Football Rankings by position. Use the time codes to jump to the position of your choice, or you can just check out the finalized list down in the description. All of the links bring you to DraftKings Network, which has the updated rankings. They get updated every single day, so please go check that out. Smash like and sub to the channel. And Jake Ciely from theathletic.com is on the line. But did you know, Jake, that our guy, Toe Tag and Tambo, who appears on this show on Fridays, has qualified for the King of the Beach final, and he is giving away 10% of his winnings of that lineup. Now, the minimum he can give away is $600. The maximum he can give away is $30,000 to you good people out there.
And how do you good people get a piece of that money?
Well, all you need to do is, you can sub to the newsletter. You can find all the deets down in there. But if you subscribe, rate, and review the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast on Apple or Spotify, set those downloads to auto-download as well. That's really the key part in all of this, along with the review. Then you're in the draw. So we'll see how Tambo, you can go root on Tambo this Sunday in week number 11 down in Miami if you want to.
Then the follow-up question I know you're going to get, what happens if I've already rated and reviewed your podcast, Pat?
Well, then technically you are in the draw, but it can never hurt to leave a new review or update your review so it gets bumped back to the top of the list so I see it.
There you go. I'm a man of your show right now. That's what I'm saying, like queuing you up for all these things.
You know, it's like you've been a part of some of these giveaways before. So the way that's going to work is he's going to give away 6 winners, so it's going to chop it up between 6 people, regardless of how much money is won and given away, whatever it might be. So I guess technically one person's not going to win $30,000 if he wins the King of the Beach. 6 people will win $5,000, which is still pretty good.
Still free money.
It is free money. And honestly, like subbing, rating, reviewing, and setting auto downloads takes like 13 seconds.
I know. It's a very tough thing to have to do on your free time.
Well, here's the other part, too. I've put the links down in the description, at the very top of the description. So you can just, while you're watching, this is especially important for people who only watch the video but don't watch the audio. Like, you probably have an iPhone. You probably have Spotify. You may as well go do it. Get yourself potentially in that draw. So I think the first giveaway will be he'll give away 2 winners, and then 2 winners later on near Christmas time, and then 1 near the New Year, as we do a whole bunch of different type of ones. So people should go check them out at shipitnation.com, by the way. Code Mayo gets you a ton over there. Let's go to the injury report for week number 11 at the running back position. Alexander Madison sustained a concussion. Tell the truth. He's probably not going to play this week. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is coming back.
Well, they're on a bye.
Oh, yeah, they are.
Oh, no, wait. No, they're not.
No, they're not. No, they play this week.
Yeah, they are.
Tell the truth,
Yeah,
Jake.
I'm confused.
Tell the truth.
I guess I'm thinking of the Saints. I'm jumping ahead. Go ahead. Sorry. Go. Keep going.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire is coming off bye week. He did not play over in Frankfurt, but he should be back this week. DeMarcado, who really cares about him at this point now that James Conner's back? He didn't play. Damian Pierce is one to keep an eye on, although I have his name as like Damon Pierce in here. I'm missing a letter, so it's like he's in House of Dragons or Dragon House, as I enjoy to call it. Kendry Miller missed week 10. He is now on bye week. Khalil Herbert missed week 10, although he is expected to return for the Bears, same as Justin Field this week. Devin Achane is expected to return for the Dolphins, and then Kyron Williams is eligible to return, but I actually haven't
Next week.
He's eligible
Week 12.
He's eligible to return this week in week 11. He can come
I'm 99% sure it's week 12.
All right. Anyway, I haven't heard a lick about him the entire time he's been.
Yeah, I'm almost positive it's week 12 because he's one more week of Darrell Henderson before he can even come back.
Okay. So, yeah. I guess not eligible to return. I didn't have him in the rankings anyway because I had not heard anything about
Kyron
him.
Williams return. He can return in week 12 when the Rams face the Cardinals in Glendale.
That's a pretty good matchup, too, if he does come back, depending on who's playing quarterback for the Rams at this point.
That's the big thing. Does he get to come back and play with Stafford, or is it going to be, I don't even know at this point?
It would be Carson
Wentz.
It's Carson Wentz. If it's not
You
Matt
think he can
Stafford.
get up to speed that quickly?
I mean, they cut Brett Rippon.
Yeah, but I guess that's true.
So who else is there?
They got to have a third quarterback unless they just are confident Stafford's. Is that it? Do they not even have a third quarterback? Because that would just tell us Stafford's coming back.
They don't on the roster right now. I'm looking at our
No,
lads.
yeah.
Stafford and Carson Wentz.
It's just Stafford and
only,
Wentz.
Yeah, are the only two quarterbacks on the roster. I have.
Well, that's
Stafford in
good
the
news
rankings.
then.
Yeah, so I mean, I rank the Rams guys that they're going to deal with like an 80% Stafford when it comes. I mean, we'll have a Cup and Puka discussion when it gets to wide receivers, but I suppose that we should talk about running backs for right now because it's the ranking show, and number 1 is Christian McCaffrey. Good thing about Kyle Shanahan, he will work to get you a touchdown. Even if it doesn't work, he will try his damnedest to get you a touchdown if you're Christian McCaffrey. So,
That was so reckless.
McCaffrey, Eckler, Brees Hall, Etienne. Etienne's a bit banged up, but he came back in the game. He should be fine. Just don't have him try to catch any passes from Christian Kirk, and he should be fine going forward. Raheem Mostert, Devin Achane, 5 and 6. DeAndre Swift, Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, Rashad White, James Conner, David Montgomery, Kenneth Walker, Jahmyr Gibbs, Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, Saquon Barkley, Devin Singletary, assuming no Damian Pierce, Brian Robinson, and Aaron Jones. And then the one I wanted to talk about before we circle back up to the top and talk about Pollard and how shit he is and that kind of thing. Ty Chandler, I have at number 21 as he just looks like he's going to be. They re-signed Myles Gaskin, who they had previous. They signed before the season started, but cut him loose. He signed with the Rams once Williams went down. Then he got cut loose by the Rams. Now he's back in Minnesota. But this appears to be Ty Chandler's backfield if Madison is out, at least for this week.
It is, but also, and obviously we're waiting Monday Night Football, but Denver Broncos run defense, actually their defense as a whole has been a lot better since week 4 and 5, right around that range. And Ty Chandler was already beaten out multiple times this year. Like they traded for Cam Akers to bring him in before they used Ty Chandler. And I'm not saying like don't have Ty Chandler as a low end RB2 and the volume play is why you have him where he is. I think assuming tonight looks what it likely to be, Javonte Williams is back in the bell cow role. I would play Javonte Williams before I played Ty Chandler, just because we've seen Ty Chandler, and it's not a bad matchup. It's not a good matchup. The Broncos are kind of middle of the road right now, and in that game going against each other, I know Minnesota's run defense has actually been pretty good, but I know Javonte Williams. I don't trust Ty Chandler the way that I would trust Williams.
Okay, would you go Aaron Jones or Javonte Williams?
I would go Javonte Williams. Aaron Jones could finish top 10. He's the running back version and new DJ Moore. He's either going to finish top 10 or 35th, and we're going to keep getting this wrong.
I think I'm just going to stick him at 20. Like I don't want to play
That's what I'm like. Just put him in the middle.
Yeah, but I don't even know. He's going to have a week where he's like top 10. Week 1 he did that, but I think that's the only week all year he's finished inside the top 10. Now he's been hurt, obviously, but
I thought he was top 15 last week.
Was he? He didn't score though, did he?
No, but I thought week 9, I thought he had let's see, I'll pull it up real quick. Week 9, he was 6th. Yeah, he did score. It's 20 for 73 and a touchdown. It wasn't great rushing.
There we go. Yeah, it's all been very inefficient. It's so weird. As someone who owns A.J. Dillon and was like pumped to start him when Aaron Jones went down, it's like, this is great. Bell cow roll for A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon is only good when he gets like 4 touches a game.
He's Joshua Kelly. Like some of these guys are only good as change of pace. I mean, it's not a true change of pace, but you get my point. Is that limited touches that they're not relied on to be the guy. It's kind of like a different version of like Calvin Ridley as a number 1 wide receiver. It's just he can't handle that kind of coverage. Some of these guys can't. Like, how many times have I brought up Lamar Miller over the years to you? Is some guys can't handle being the bell cow lead option. But anyway, to go to this conversation, I would trust again. This is assuming what we saw from before the bye, the 3 games, actually really 2 games before the bye of Javonte Williams continues against the Bills. If it does tonight, I would play Javonte Williams before I played Aaron Jones.
Okay, would you play Saquon Barkley or Javonte Williams?
That's a toss-up I think you could make. I don't think it's going to be as bad as the Cowboys for a while, especially, I mean, they get the Commanders this week. It'll be better. That volume is second to, Christian McCaffrey type of volume. So it'll be better this week. I think you could honestly argue that his volume versus Joe Mixon, who just needs to run. And that was supposed to be a game a lot of people were on in DFS was Joe Mixon. I think he's in that same conversation. Derrick Henry, his volume's better than Derrick Henry, but the situation's not as good as Henry. So where you have him is a fine spot. I think I would still go Barkley over Javonte.
All right, I'll shove in Javonte at number 18. So I guess I was down a little bit too much on him. I have Devin Singletary right now at number 19. Obviously, if Dameon Pierce plays, you don't play Devin Singletary. Although, of course, Devin Singletary has like 30 fantasy points the week after everyone plays him. Then no one wants to touch him ever again.
That's another worse version is that, you were going to watch, Dameon Pierce will be out again, and then David Singletary is going to get like 13 for 37 or something.
Is it that the Bucks' run defense is good, or is it just so easy to pass all over them that people just don't commit to the run like they probably should against them?
Oh, it's kind of that chicken and the egg argument that we've had about the Titans over the years. And the Titans this year, their run defense isn't as good as it was. It was actually really good for a while. Now it kind of became one of those, it's so easy to pass. The Washington Commanders for a while until they traded everybody is it really tough to run on them, or you just obliterate them in the passing game? I think it's a little bit mix of both. Like the Vikings. Vikings actually throw those two teams together, the Vikings and the Bucks. Both of them have solid run defenses, but because it's also so easy to pass against them, it actually overcompensates, so to be. Like, you get where I'm going with this. Is like, it's not a terrible matchup. It's not a favorable matchup.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Do I have the Detroit guys too low at number 12 and number 14?
Is that who you're going to circle back up to? I was going to ask you about that. Is that purely because of who David Montgomery is facing this week? Because that one, I brought this up the past 2 weeks, and I keep sitting here going like, man, is it really true? The Bears' run defense is current. It's since week 3, it's been the best. They run highest run stuff percentage, the lowest or highest, depending on how you look at it, rush EPA. It's destroying people. And I was going to bring that. I'm glad you presented that, because I was going to say, is this another one? Is the Bears' run defense really that good, or are they just so easy to pass on? I think it's actually really good. Not Browns, not Ravens really good, but pretty close. And I think that's part of the reason I would be concerned. Now, David Montgomery over Connor, we're going to be nitpicky here. The one I would do, I would just put Tony Pollard behind David Montgomery. You put Tony Pollard. You could argue Tony Pollard behind Jahmyr Gibbs at this point.
I can say, should Tony Pollard be in this like Henry Mixon range of guys?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That works for me.
He was 2 for 10 on goal line carry attempts for scoring a touchdown. He is now 2 of 13 because he went over 3.
Now, again, is this a chicken and egg thing where is it a Pollard thing, or is Dallas just really bad in the red zone?
I think it's a Pollard thing. They were fine in the red zone. I'm actually surprised that Dak hasn't run in a few or two. Maybe that's just they don't want to get him hurt at this point of his career, and that's just not who he is anymore. But Dowdle didn't have a problem doing his.
Shout out to the Run the Sims prop sniper. That was the highest rated prop. And I was like, this is real iffy, but the Sims rated it very highly. It was Dak over 10.5 rushing yards. I was like, well, they're going to blow them out. How much is he going to have to run? And
I was with you.
And he ended up getting it before the end of half. It's like, oh, this is great.
I specifically know that because I saw that too on Run the Sims, and then I was mid-game. I had one that went south immediately. It was actually Derrick Henry. I think it was the Derrick Henry
yards.
One. And then, yes, and like one catch for -4 yards. I was like, he's the one catch, he's going to hit that. And then I replayed another one, and it actually had gone up to 11.5 at that point. And I was like, yeah, fine, I'll still go with it, whatever.
Yeah, and then it coupled with the most terrifying prop on Sunday Night Football, which was Hunter Renfrow under 14.5 yards. It came through. That's just you just look at it, you're like, yeah, this seems terrible.
It was so terrifying. I hit most, but I missed a couple. I missed the Drake London one too. I thought for sure he'd get 40-something yards against the Cardinals.
Do you think that they're going to continue to roll? I know that Bijan's on bye right now, but just to talk about his workload against the Cardinals a little bit, do you think that is what we are going to see moving forward from Bijan, or like they lost, so they're not going to do it again?
I don't think it's that so much they lost. But the thing is that was just a heavy approach, because he still only had 60%. I'm looking right now, 60% of the running back touches. That's not really much different since what they've been doing with Bijan Robinson. It just happened to be the fact that Tyler Algier also ran 10 touches, ran 9 times, and Cordell Patterson had 5 touches. It was just all running backs in that game. So I don't really think that's going to change much. Of course, we all got excited to be like, oh, I got a goal line carrying a touchdown. What a shock. I think that might be the only thing that changes, is you get some more work into the red zone area. Well, most specifically inside the 10. And that's what we want to see. So I think that might continue going forward.
Mostert and A-Chain at 5 and 6. Do you trust just to plug A-Chain in as a running back one the moment he returns? Because I see no reason not to.
I mean, I see no reason not to based on what he can do. But if that's the case, I feel less confident about Mostert, who's been, I mean, like, he's going to play. He's missing practice. Like they already said, today is the simulation game or day, and he would miss today. But I mean, when was the last time Mostert even practiced on Wednesday at this point? The only reason I say that is because now you have a healthy Jeff Wilson, and maybe just keep Mostert healthy. So I actually have more concern about Mostert at 5 than I do of Achane at 6. Like Mostert feels to me, if I was doing the ranks, like more like a Kenneth Walker situation.
Okay, I can get on board with that if we just keep A-Chain where he is because of the big playability. And playing Vegas, it's a gravy matchup for each of these guys.
Yeah.
For anyone on the Dolphins, it's a fantastic matchup. Apparently, the only team that can't move the ball on the Raiders is the Jets. I probably should have saw that one coming. So would you play Mostert or Pollard?
I would play Pollard.
Henry
but
or
it's
Mostert?
Close.
Henry's
The
been
Titans have this week.
Henry's been secret bad.
I know, yes, and the Jacksonville defense was good until they got destroyed by the 49ers. I think it's a toss-up. I'd go Mostert over Henry.
All right, so I'll check
In that
him.
offense?
Yeah, I'll check him in there at number 14. Well, that's always the thing, like attaching yourself to even I don't want to say a part-time running back, but like a split running back, and it could be a three-way split, because they still do enjoy using Salvan Ahmed in the passing game for reasons unknown. But
I think he'll be inactive. At this point.
Probably with Jeff Wilson being active now and like looking okay. The last time that we saw him in the Frankfurt game, and they were using him on 2-minute drills a lot too. Although I would expect A-Chain to fill that role now that he's back. If they were just shoving Ahmed and Jeff Wilson into that role, that seems like a prime spot to get A-Chain on the field in space to let him take off. But anytime that you can attach yourself to a running back, like in a coin flip situation, to an offense that might score 50 points, that's the route you want to go down.
Yeah, that's the appeal there, and I don't disagree with that. And the reason I brought up Kenneth Walker is because if it wasn't for that, and I've said this for how long? We've talked about it. Like
it's his thing,
basically
man.
Since he's been in the league. The big play is his thing. You take, and again, you can't take away the big play, but I don't know what the hell happened with the defender on that play. Like they were just like falling off of him. And man, that's partly Kenneth Walker, whatever it is. But like I'm not saying you take that away, but if you take it away, it was a pretty day. Like the rest of his touches were like 3 yards per touch. It was the same thing I talked to you about last week. It's the same concern. Kenneth Walker is still struggling overall. It's just the big play ability is there every single week, so you have to keep him in this range.
Yeah, of course. And frankly, there's just not that many good running backs, like trustworthy running backs. He's a part of this group of a bunch of high upside but completely untrustworthy guys.
And that's where you're not wrong. I'm looking at one that seemed. Oh, never mind. I was going to say Pacheco.
I was going to say, is it Pacheco? It's because he's playing Philly.
In the Eagles. There you go.
The only reason he's buried. So 20-30 got Brian Robinson, Aaron Jones now at 21, Ty Chandler at 22, Gus Edwards at 23, Pacheco, Chuba Hubbard, Najee Harris, Jerome Ford, James Cook, Jalen Warren, and Darrell Henderson at number 30, followed by, I have Khalil Herbert, the highest ranked of the Bears guys. I have Herbert and then Deonta Foreman at 31 and 32. Do you have any idea how that's going to shake out? I feel like if Herbert's back, he'll be the lead again, but the lead might be like 40% of the snaps.
Yeah, I'm leaning more to the whole don't fix what's not broken. And Deonta Foreman's been terrific in his absence. And Herbert, until those two games, like 1.5, because it was one amazing week, and he was on a great roll when he got hurt. And it was like, oh my God, as we said it in that game, it's like, this is Herbert. This is the Herbert we wanted. This is the full lead. But he did get hurt, and Foreman has looked great. Why go away from Foreman? Now, I do think it's going to be a significant part of the split, but like where you said 40%, I think it could be 60-40, 60 to Foreman. If I'm ranking, I'm going to go Foreman. It might be a mistake. We don't know, but I would put Foreman just because of how good he's played over Herbert in his first game back, because it's like, why force the issue? Like, why force Herbert to be the guy when Foreman's done such a good job?
All right, so I'll put Foreman there. Does that mean I should bump Herbert down, do you think, or just keep him one spot behind Foreman?
No, I think that's a fair spot because I would still play Herbert over Hill, and then Gainwell's just touchdown or nothing.
Is Keaton Mitchell A-Chain light?
A-Chain light because it's the touches light. He only had 4 touches. It's just that he does so much on them. Like, where you have him, I know people are probably going to get mad about it, but where you have him is where he deserves to be. He's an RB3 that could definitively finish top 10 on 3, 4, 5 touches, but you cannot, you can't put him inside the top 20 on 5 touches. If he was getting 8, 10, 12, like Achane, sure, let's talk about him in the top 15, but he's not, and that's the problem.
It's funny. It reminds me, and this is how long that we've been doing this, is when I used to have to rank Dante Hall at receiver.
Because of touchdowns on the return game?
Yeah, like he's not going, and they did try to incorporate him more as a receiver. It just never really worked, or try to get him a few reverses. But it's like, in the season when he was returning everything for touchdowns, it's like, well, you can play this guy at receiver. Like, he might touch the ball 3 times this game. Is that good enough for you? Because he might have 0 points.
That's the problem. That's the issue. That you were making me think of the other one. I just pulled it up. I knew is Darren Sproles back with the running back, but back when it was those limited touches every single week, and at least he was getting those return touchdowns on top. Back when people actually returned kicks, if you remember. But I thought like that kind of reminded me of that too. Yeah, that's the problem. Is do you get the touchdown or not? Really, what's the difference between him and you brought up the receiver? The conversation of like a Darnell Mooney or Rashid Shaheed. You might get a touchdown on 2 catches or 3 catches, but a lot of times you're going to get nothing.
I would prefer to play like a Shaheed type. Now, obviously, they're on bye week, and Jameis is probably playing quarterback for them when they come out of the bye week, depending on Derek Carr's shoulder at this point. But the difference, I think, in those circumstances is you're still asking a running back with 3 to 5 touches a game to break a 60-yard run for a touchdown.
Right.
At least with Shaheed, a high percentage of his targets are just 60-yard bombs down the field that if he catches it, he's going to like run for 80 total yards and get into the end zone. Like, he's specifically designed for that play, for the big play, where it's just very random with running backs.
Not to go down the rabbit hole, but who's the one for the Browns that was just like Dante Hall? Actually returned even more than he did.
Cribbs?
Yes! Joshua Cribbs.
Josh Cribbs.
Yes.
That was great.
Yeah, that was the other one. Good times.
He had
I miss returners.
He had the meanest looking like headshot of all time. I'm just furious.
Speaking of that, can Kadarius Toney get one that doesn't have the ski like thermal thing where like it's actually a normal picture?
No, impossible.
He just wears that all the time.
He's
in
like
the middle of the summer.
Yeah,
he goes to the beach with the ski mask thing.
He's like Tobias. He's not that he's a never nude. It's just he's an always turtlenecker.
Oh, okay, fair.
Both Pittsburgh running backs have a...
I knew that's where you were going next. I knew it.
Yeah, Najee and Warren, 26 and 29. Like, Pittsburgh is committed to not throwing the ball. Like, just go and look at the...
I mean, their quarterback's Kenny Pickett.
You watch the game, then you go look at the game log, and it's actually like worse than what your eyes would tell you. They're just like, we want to turn around and hand the ball off and win games in the weirdest ways possible, and it continues to work. So why change anything? It's going to be tough to do too much on the Browns because, I mean, what we saw from the Ravens was Mitchell was able to hit the corner and go, but like Warren, I would say that Warren has a better chance of that because it seems like he can turn the corner a little bit more than Najee, and Najee they do primarily use between the tackles where that's just more unlikely. If you're running off tackle, which they tend to do more with Warren or try to get him into space, that's better. But Najee's frankly looked pretty good since I absolutely berated him.
And he keeps scoring touchdowns. Yes, I sabotage dropped him 3 weeks ago. That's worked out terrific. He went on a touchdown streak. I will say one thing in this game was the one person I was going to bring up. And it's the same thing I keep saying to everybody. What more does Jerome Ford have to do to get respect? He just went for 100 yards against the Ravens every single week, and he's involved in the passing game. I would play Jerome Ford over Pacheco against the Eagles.
All right, I mean, that's a good call. Would you rather play Jerome Ford or Devin Singletary this week? Ford?
Ooh. Yeah, Ford.
Javonte Williams or Jerome Ford?
Javonte Williams only just that's just because, again, assuming Javonte Williams continues that run that we saw before the bye.
Yeah, I mean, if he gets hurt in Monday Night Football, I'll take him out of the rankings.
Oh, I also meant that all of a sudden they come out of the bye and go back and give him 40%, 45% and mix in both the backups with P. Ryan and McLaughlin.
Yeah, I have James Cook at number 28. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen on Monday Night Football. I mean, this is going to sound really bad in retrospect when people watch this on a Tuesday after the game. I think the Bills throttle the Broncos. Everyone in the world is betting the Broncos tonight. And just, it's a classic spot where the Bills just show up and run a train.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. I just, for selfish purposes, I'm still somehow surviving a really big survivor, and the third most picked team was the Bills. I just want them to lose just for that reason.
I'm cooked anyway, so I don't care what happens in Survivor. I had the Bengals.
Oh, I took the Steelers. You want to talk about somebody sweating that freaking run game? I was getting pissed.
What? I don't want to sound like Jerry Seinfeld, but what is the deal with James Cook right now? He's
just like, I'm not this. I got things wrong. I definitely did. Like Jahan Dotson got things wrong this year. But the one thing I got right is my James Cook opinion. Like you and I argued. I'm not coming for you. You weren't the only one that wanted James.
You're
not the only one that wanted James Cook as the top 20 running back. I just didn't want it because I just don't think James Cook is a 15, 20 touch guy. And I don't think he's efficient outside being somebody who needs to be part of a piece. And honestly, in my opinion, I think he's more like Singletary, who he replaced, and that he's the second piece. Now, is it a 60-40 where he could still be an RB2 and actually even probably better than the other option who's getting 60% of the work? Yes, because of what you said and what people are right about. Passing game, explosiveness, it's all great. It's just one of those situations where you put lead work on this running back and he's just not made for it, in my opinion.
It's just the touches just are so inconsistent week to week. Like there was a nice run, like, even to start the season. He was up right around that 20 range. And then they went to London and things went off the rails. They came back like 14, 13, 14. But I mean, I get that they were losing the entire time to the Bengals, but 6 carries? Like, what are we doing here? 5 carries against Jacksonville? At least in those instances, he's still working himself into the receiving game, which is nice. Like in the game, they're way behind, and he gets 6 carries, he gets 4 catches. In the game where he gets 5 carries, he gets 3 catches in that game against Jacksonville, which is pretty nice for 25 yards. So he's pretty good in the receiving game. He's had some big receiving moments so far this year on a week-to-week basis. It feels like it's so inconsistent, and that's more my problem. With him right now is that when I start him, I have no idea what I'm going to get. Like there's not even his range of outcomes for just workload. Forget production. Workload is just off the charts. And they're eventually going to work in Leonard Fournette somehow. And somehow he'll score like 3 touchdowns a game and make everyone on the Bills useless.
You mean tonight? Leonard Fournette's going to be active and then it's going to be 3 touchdowns for Leonard Fournette?
Is he active
I think,
for Monday Night Football?
Nah, I don't. We haven't heard word yet, obviously, but it wouldn't shock me. I think that James Cook is worse, like light. We say light Walmart version jokes about it, but I think he's a different version of DeAndre Swift, and that like what we're seeing even with the Eagles, DeAndre Swift is great. Just don't give him the ball 25 times. And for James Cook, it's not even like 20. I think but that role, let him get, like you just said, let him get 5, 6, 7 carries, but also keep using him in the passing game. The problem that falls underneath is what we know about the Bills. It's just the Bills week to week are inconsistent in what they do. Josh Allen himself is inconsistent. Gabe Davis, whether or not he gets targets, inconsistent. It's just the Bills. The only consistent thing that we've ever had in the Bills offense is Stephon Diggs. Everything else is just up for grabs. Although Dalton Kincaid might actually now be in that consistent conversation.
Yeah, once you put your trust in Dalton Kincaid, he'll have like 1 for 7 or something.
Don't put that evil on us, please.
I don't want it. I want Dalton Kincaid to be good, but like you said, it's the Bills. You never know. It'll be a Shakir game, or maybe Shearfield will get mixed in. Who knows? Deontay Hardy.
Oh, so that's the next one I was going to bring up. Deontay Hardy.
Wide receiver injuries going into week number 11. Michael Thomas exited the game. The Saints are on bye, so no immediate concern about that. I mean, there's concern that he's no good, so that's an issue for your fantasy team, but he might be hurt now too. T. Higgins missed week 10 with a hamstring injury. I have him in the rankings for week 11, but with a quick turnaround on Thursday night, he may or may not play, so we can talk through that situation. Zay Jones missed week 10. I'm just not going to put him into the rankings until he's activated. Screw it. Every week it's like, hey, he's practicing. Not playing, though. Traylon Burks missed week 10. Who knows with him? I have him out of the rankings right now as well. I put Nico Collins back in for the Texans. Mac Hollins missed week 10. He's going on bye week. Justin Jefferson missed week 10. I have him in the rankings for week number 11. KJ Osborne, I have back in the rankings. Chark, I have out. Parker is on bye, so I'm not too concerned about them. We jump over to the rankings themselves, and I got Tyreek Hill in at number 1 in the rankings. CD, A.J. Brown, and then Justin Jefferson at number 4. New quarterback, hasn't played in 2 months. I'm fine with Justin Jefferson. You play him.
That's the Jamar Chase back issue. That's the same thing. You just play him. They're like, what are we going to have a conversation for? Not you, other people.
Yeah. Once he was activated, it's like, what are you going to do? Sit him for Trenton Irwin? The crocodile wanna?
I had somebody ask me if Tyler Boyd in DFS was a better player. Like, no, stop. No, just Chase. Just do it.
Well, I mean, that's a different conversation. If Tyler Boyd versus Jamar Chase on DraftKings, because Tyler Boyd's $4,600 and Jamar Chase is like $8,800. So
yeah, but Tyler Boyd still wasn't a good play.
No, he wasn't. Trenton Irwin was the guy that everyone used because he was minimum price. Like that was, because you could have got the high-end production from someone else besides Chase. There were very few people at $3,000 that you could have got the Irwin product. So
I actually started Irwin over Ridley in my home league.
Oh my God, really?
As a starter. Yeah. I'm done with Ridley until Zay Jones is back. I'm done. People keep telling me like, oh, there's such a small sample. It's like we've actually had multiple games with Zay Jones in and out because he's played parts of games, and people keep telling me they're crazy. And I'm like, no, Calvin Ridley is not he's John Cena if Zay Jones is not out there. He does not exist. You can't see him.
Amon-Ra at 5, Diggs at 6, Chase at 7 against the Ravens on Thursday Night Football. Keenan Allen, Ayuk, Devonta Smith. And then we have Cooper Kupp, Waddle coming off that back injury sustained in Frankfurt, should be fine. Evans, Hopkins, Nico Collins back in. Thielen, Kirk with no Zay Jones. Deontay Johnson, DJ Moore, Devontae Adams, Tank Dell, Garrett Wilson, Terry McLaurin, Higgins at 24. Debo at 25. DK, Addison with Jefferson back. Amari Cooper, Puka, and Hollywood Brown. Now, I do have Stafford starting, so do you think I should have Puka way higher than this?
No. And just because it was like, so the first 2-3 games was like, yeah, it's nice. But that last game and a half or so, I think that's a fair spot for Nakua. Stafford, is he 100%? Is this offense going to click like it was? Cooper Kupp had 2 disappointing games. Like, I'm not arguing to move Kupp down either, but I think this is a fair spot for the rest. It's got Cleveland against Pittsburgh. Amari Cooper should be able to avoid Joey Porter a decent amount because of where Porter plays, and they could put Cooper in the slot, which is a decent amount. So I think is a fair Nakua for me, where you have him in that tier. Like, I would put his tier basically from, I'd say Devontae Adams all the way through Cortland Sutton. Giant tier, like all those wide receivers in the same conversation. So if you wanted to move him up 5 spots, I wouldn't argue. If you wanted to put him down by Cortland Sutton, I wouldn't argue. I think it's a fair range.
You mentioned his production over the 1.5 games with Stafford. It's essentially the moment Stafford took that, the game with Rippon, he was terrible, but everyone was terrible on the Rams. But the moment that Stafford hurt his thumb, everyone's production fell off a cliff. Like, Puka was still doing things when Stafford was healthy. The moment he was unhealthy, he was still trying to force it to Cooper Kupp. That was great and everything, but it was just the end of Puka.
Right, and that's my point. Is the thumb 100% or not? Like, that, it's a big thing. Like, whether or not he's playing through a 70-80% thumb, and it's going to be nagging him on his throws. That's why it's not so much Nakua and Pat. If you told me right now, if you said, "Hey, guess what? I have secret information. Stafford is 100%. He doesn't even feel pain in his thumb." I say Nakua above Devontae Adams at this point. Devontae Adams is just frustrating, and he gets Jalen Ramsey this week. That might just be too high of a ranking. Period. But the volume is just ridiculous. But he's also one of the most off-targeted throws is Devontae Adams on his percentage. So I would move Devontae Adams down a bit for that Ramsey matchup. And if you told me Stafford was 100%, I would play Nakua before I played Adams. But I'm factoring that in, as well as the Seattle pass defense has been similar to what we're talking about with the Bears. Since the middle of the season, that Seattle pass defense has been really good.
Yeah, but are you really going to bench McLaurin? Just because it's a bad matchup? Like, how many good options do you have? Like, I got 2 zeros. In my home league this week, I made a big trade to throw in the towel for the season. Although I'm in 3rd place, I'm not going to win. I might not even make the playoffs in 3rd place. So I made that decision. Like, do I want to ride this out with Chris Godwin and Tyler Lockett and these jabronis I have at wide receiver? It was supposed to be a rebuilding year. I didn't have a pick in the first 3 rounds. Actually, no, I had a 3rd round pick, and I used it on Kamara, and I traded him just to try to maximize what I can do for next year. But Puka was on bye for me. I'm not playing Tank Dell, so I can keep him for free next year. So a lot is going into it. But I had Godwin and Lockett, and I had to replace them with Kadarrell Hodge and Brandon Powell this week. It was not good.
No, that's not good. But to the point here, Seattle, the only reason that Howell had a day was because Brian Robinson was doing stuff out of the backfield. Like, they limited McLaurin quite a bit, actually, so much so that I got people asking me, what's wrong with McLaurin? Because you had a decent, not great game 2 weeks ago now, so to speak. But the Seattle's not the best matchup. That's all I'm saying. It's like, you're not benching Nakua. But I think every risk that we're focusing on him right now, with everything, the risk, the matchup, all that type of stuff, I just wouldn't argue to put him higher. He can definitively finish higher. He still has top 10 upside.
So with T. Higgins in the rankings right now at number 24. This is a Thursday night matchup. This is a decision you will have to make if he is activated. Now, he might be deemed inactive. My advice, do not play him if he is not playing. Now, let's say he is in the game and active. Is 24 too high for him?
I think it's too high associating the risk from the names behind him, like Debo, DK, Addison. What we got from Minnesota this week? Minnesota's at Denver. I think Ass and Cooper, I can see now having a toss up because
Like, would you play Puka or Higgins?
That's where I was just about to go. I think if we got we got 100% practices, I would play Nakua. I wouldn't risk it. I wouldn't risk that he's out there and potentially gets the decoy treatment, even if he's not out there as a decoy. If you know what I'm saying.
We've seen that before, by the way, with Higgins just being on the field to be a complete decoy. Okay, so let's drop a little further. Would you play Holly? Like they were trying. Kyler was trying to make Hollywood Brown happen, and he dropped a touchdown. So I'm not concerned about that hookup. Brown's still the guy that I want in Arizona. Except for maybe McBride.
Against Houston, I would play Marquise Brown.
Okay, what about Cortland Sutton?
Cortland Sutton, assuming tonight's what tonight should be of what Cortland Sutton has been, is their number one wide receiver, I would play Cortland Sutton and I would stop there. Zay Flowers is essentially just Michael Thomas at this point.
I was going to say, Zay, is there a difference between Zay Flowers and Demario Douglas anymore?
No. I don't. Does Zay Flowers even have a double-digit game to the year? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he scored a touchdown
6.
in the Titans game in London.
Yeah, week 6. That's it. Oh, and then week 1, 9 for 78. So he has 2 double-digit scores this year.
Am I too low on Noah Brown?
So I was writing my waiver column before we started this, and I have Noah Brown as a top 3 pickup because the upside of Noah Brown, here's the scenario that plays out. He's been so good. He's gone up 4 straight games. He's gone up in receiving yards. He actually had fewer fantasy points than last week because the touchdown from last week, but he's gone up 4 straight games. He's been everything that they hoped he was going to be. It's what people were hoping he was going to be for the Cowboys. The problem is a healthy Nico Collins. Did he really get Wally Pitt by Noah Brown? I'm going to say no. So it comes down to him or Tank Dell. And I could see Tank Dell falling into the slot. You're only out there for 3 wide. They run a lot of 3 wide, so it's not that big of a concern. But now it comes down to who's the person who's going to have the 13% target share. As of today, what Tank Dell and Nico Collins have done so far, I would still lean those as being the 1 and 2. But there is a world where Noah Brown is now one of the top 2 options. So I think where you have him, in that Tyler Lockett conversation where he could be top 10 or 35th, I think is a fair spot. Definitively in this range, like I'd go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, I think he's got as high ceiling as DK Metcalf at 26, but I think the risk is there.
Every time that Stroud throws to Noah Brown, there is no one around him by 10 yards. He's just wide
because
open.
He's playing. And this is this was to go back to the Tank Dell thing. Earlier this year, when people were trying to figure out Nico Collins versus Tank Dell, like who's going to have the big game? Because they almost alternated. And it really came down to pressure rate. I brought that up to you a couple weeks ago. And when CJ Stroud has time, Tank Dell, boom, gets behind defenders and he's downfield. And he throws those big plays because he's got time to stand in the pocket. And he's just terrific with time. He's a great pocket passer to begin with. But when he has to get it out quick, and that's why I bring up the Noah Brown versus Nico Collins, I don't think Nico Collins is going to lose one of those top 2 positions, is because Noah Brown needs time as well. When he has to get it out quick, Nico Collins is the answer. So that's why I bring up that Tank Dell versus Noah Brown scenario.
Green Bay receivers. I have Watson.
Plural?
I have Dobbs at 40. Watson at 47 and Jaden Reed at 49.
Flip those 2.
Flip Watson and Reed?
Yeah. Like at this, Watson's led in targets again, but there's no chemistry between Love and Watson. You saw it again. He went to him in the end zone, just turned into an interception.
It's got to be one of the great lost seasons is this Christian Watson season. Like anyone who drafted him, I kind of feel bad.
I dropped him a couple weeks ago because I brought it up to you last week. It's you need to wait for a game, and then by the time that happens, what if it's a bad game when you start him and you're going down that circle again? I dropped him when watched somebody start him. It was terrific. I laughed. It wasn't against me, unfortunately.
Yeah, we discussed that last week. Like that's the move. Just like don't even bother trading him. Just drop him. Maybe one of the good teams in your league will pick him up.
Like I would play Rice over him.
Would you?
Even against the Eagles, yeah.
Like Rice doesn't do anything though. Is the problem? Like he has to catch a touchdown or he's 1 point. Although I guess that's Christian Watson too.
He catches 3 or 4 every single game, and the Eagles have been favorable, and Rashee Rice is out of the slot, which is where they have been better. The Eagles have been better, but the one spot they're still vulnerable is slot tight ends, that combination, and Rashee Rice. Like, oh my God, Travis Kelce's going to have 1 billion points against the Eagles this week.
What about Guyton? Because I think that now that Quentin Johnson caught a touchdown, people might be in on him. Guyton looked way better.
So another one I brought up in the waiver column, they actually ran the same amount of routes. I don't think this is necessarily only Johnson's job. I think he still has the higher ceiling, like we know who Guyton is. But I mean, Guyton might be more trusted by Justin Herbert, and that would be my concern. So you have Guyton ahead of Johnston. I think that's a fair assessment to make. And now both of them are in wide receiver 5 range, where it's just play them for the ceiling, boom or bust. But you're not wrong in that Guyton might be the better option going down the rest of the season.
One other thing from watching the Arizona game, just I really want to see what Kyler looked like and what he was doing. Like Michael Wilson's going to be fine, but like he was trying to force the ball to Rondale Moore a bunch. Now I don't know if that was a scheming thing that on the routes where Hollywood was couldn't get a step on anyone, they just forced it into Rondale Moore. It didn't really translate into fantasy points, but it was just curious to see he was a first read, or at least he was the default. Hey, nothing's open. We'll try to just force it into Rondale Moore. That was the game plan for Kyler.
He was. I'm looking right now. Yeah, he has the second highest targets behind Trey McBride. Love some Trey McBride now. That's a hell of fun.
I mean, he's top 10 for sure. Like he's a borderline top 5 tight end with Kyler back now.
Would you rather have Kincaid or McBride?
McBride.
I don't think that's a fair toss up to have right there. But yeah, he had 8 targets to Michael Wilson's 6, and then as you mentioned, Marquise Brown 4. Only caught one of them. I think I want to see Rondale Moore more. So, but that could be similar to the CJ Stroud situation, is that while trying to force to get it out quick, who's going to be the one that gets open the fastest? It's Rondale Moore. Yeah. And the tight end, and McBride. This goes back to Michael Wilson when Josh Dobbs was top 3 first read percentage. And the problem is that if you're playing against man, you're not going to get free quickly for Michael Wilson. And remember the Michael Wilson game against the Bengals, who run a lot of man? Michael Wilson gets space in zone. So maybe this is the answer going forward. It's going to be the same thing as it was before. If you get it open quick, Rondale Moore against man coverage, Michael Wilson's the zone coverage games. And maybe that's the way we play it.
Well, what does Houston play most of?
I knew you were going to ask that. So let me pull it. I had the defensive tab open. I knew this is going to come. This is, let's see. Houston is 12th. They're above 70%. So there you go. Now,
for what?
Let's just see if that
man or zone. I'm going to get zone.
Zone. They're actually they're zone heavy. They're clearly zone heavy. So Arizona in that game against Atlanta. Let's see where Atlanta is. Let's see if this math checks out. Not in that one, because actually Atlanta's 3rd highest in zone. So there you go. That already went out the window.
I see. This is good. We're doing research in real time here. You have a hypothesis. Yeah. You check it. Hey, every hypothesis
doesn't always work out.
Correct. Yeah. Tight end injuries. There are 3 big ones to really consider here. Dallas Goedert he's going to be out. He has a broken arm. Maybe they'll put a big cast on him, and it'll be like wrestling.
Didn't they put him on the IR?
I checked. He's eligible to go on IR, but I think they had to come back from the bye week, so I don't think he's officially on injured reserve yet. But I could be wrong about that. Nothing I saw indicated that.
Okay.
Jerry Everett, left the game with a back injury. The dude is just like a walking triage unit. Every week, he comes back, he guts it out and sustains some sort of new injury for the Chargers. And Freiermuth, I believe, is eligible to come back this week. I don't know if he is, though.
They need him. Did you see the passing chart for Kenny Pickett? He didn't even throw to the middle of the field. They need Freiermuth back out there to have any semblance of this offense. I mean, that's partly on Pickett, but I think Freiermuth would be. Where would you put him? Do you have Freiermuth in your ranks? I haven't looked yet.
I don't know.
No, you don't.
I was thinking
I'd put him over Njoku.
I wouldn't. Pickett sucks.
You hate Njoku.
I do. He's been better though.
He's still boomer bust. You get 12 as much as likely you're going to get a 0.
I would agree with you, but he is very clearly the number 2 receiving option on the Browns right now, especially when we get down near the red zone. He's just such a big body that Watson trusts him. And when you get to tight end 11 this week and you're looking at it, it's like, oh, Njoku or that beacon of consistency, Logan Thomas. It's like, okay, yeah, at least give me the guy who might truck someone.
Ferguson's consistent. Ferguson's consistent at least.
Anyway, that's where I'm at with it. Kelsey, Hawkinson, Laporta, Andrews, Kittle, Kincaid, Schultz, McBride, Evan Ingram, Cade Otton is the top 10 for this week. Njoku, Logan Thomas, that's the end of the tight end 1 conversation. Then you got Jake Ferguson, Cole Kmet, Parham, Jack Stoll, who I assume is going to be filling in for Goddard. Do you have any thoughts on that, or do they just use more Julio Jones?
No, I think it's going to be more Devonta Smith. More consistency with him. Devonta Smith he's the one that took the hit this year. He's actually fallen down. It's not like it was last year. So I just think Devonta Smith moves back up.
Okay. Let's see. Luke Musgrave, Tanner Hudson. There was a Tanner Hudson drive to start the Bengals game on Sunday.
Yeah, that's just a drive.
Yeah. I mean,
Conklin should be higher. I'd play Conklin over Hudson.
I don't know. If your name isn't Brees Hall or Garrett Wilson, like, do you want to play any Jet?
No, but Conklin's the only other you talk about it. He's the only other one that Zach Wilson ever throws to. It's Garrett Wilson or Conklin.
Yeah.
Wasn't Conklin he was top 10 this week, wasn't he?
Was he?
I think he was. Let me even check right now. Conklin went, he had 7 targets, 0. Wow. 0 of his targets were not off. He caught all 7. Yeah, he was 7 for 70.
Oh, there you go. Okay, I'll bump up your guy, Tower Conklin, for you.
My guy.
I'll put him behind Luke Musgrave.
He just made somewhere. Andercuss is smiling. He heard it. It's just his ear's like twitching or something.
Hey, he gave out a big winner on we asked him who wasn't going to score the first touchdown in Sunday Night Football, and he said, Oakland Raiders Mitchell Meyer. And we construed that to mean Michael Meyer of the Vegas Raiders. It worked, though.
Never changed him.
25-1. Big winner for us. So, yeah, not much ado, really, at the tight end position. Schultz has been really good. Like I said, McBride, Schultz, and Kincaid, I think, and even Kittle, really, because he's so boomer bust. I'd say that, like, Andrews is slightly above him in terms of consistency, that group. And then you have your, like, with Dobbs, I mean, we'll see how it is with Jefferson back, presumably, but it was all Hawkinson all the time.
And that was supposed to be limited snaps.
I mean, if that's limited snaps, he should be number 1, probably.
It's like, and he got banged up in that game, and it was limited snaps, and he went ballistic. The one thing is the Buccaneers have actually been pretty strong against the tight end, so I'm okay with George Kittle at 5. I could actually see, even depending on what Kincaid does tonight, is playing Kincaid in front of Kittle, but I mean, who really has that decision to make?
Yeah. Quarterbacks, the big injuries are mostly bye week injuries. Derek Carr has a shoulder and a concussion. He exited the game. He's on bye week. Heineke pulled his hamstring. He's on bye week. I wouldn't expect to see him starting again. I would expect it to be Ritter for Atlanta coming out of the bye. Stafford is the big one. No clue what he's up to. I have him as starting right now in the rankings. And Justin Fields, I have as in. He was close to playing last Thursday night. I assume that means he's going to play in week number 11. For the rankings themselves, I got my guy, Tua, at number 1. Oh, wait, those are tight end rankings. Tua at number 1. Jalen Hurts at number 2. CJ Stroud at number 3. Lamar on Thursday night at 4. Goff, Dak, Kyler, Herbert, Burrow, Mahomes, Purdy, Lawrence. I have Josh Allen at 13. Now, maybe he makes me look ridiculous in this game, but he sucks against the Jets.
You think this is purely a Jets thing?
Yeah, I do think it's purely a Jets thing.
I mean, I'm not going to argue much. I'm just asking, like that's what you're putting down. The one thing I will say is I am not playing Trevor Lawrence in front of him. I'm not playing Trevor Lawrence in front of Allen, Howell, and we just talked about this on All in Football. I said it with meeting today. I know it's a great matchup. On paper, Tennessee has actually been better the middle point of the season. Their pass defense is middle of the road. It's not great. It's not amazing by any stretch of the imagination. It's not just throw all over them. But that being said, Trevor Lawrence has 2 games of 2 touchdowns. He also has 2 games of 0, and all the rest are 1. I'm playing Josh Dobbs before I play Trevor Lawrence at this point, and that might make me look stupid, but I don't know in what world you can trust Trevor Lawrence right now.
I'll put him 1 spot down. I'll put him behind Josh Allen, but
not behind Sam Howell?
No.
My boy against the Giants? He's going to light up the Giants.
Yeah, just like last time.
It was still a decent game. It's better than what Trevor Lawrence has been doing.
I don't know if it was. They scored 7 points against the Giants.
I'm gonna look. What was this? I'm gonna look at his fantasy point score in that game. I'm gonna pull it up.
I mean,
maybe it was that bad.
How many could he possibly have scored? They scored 7 points.
I'm looking.
I played him. Put it this way, I played him as my main
here.
DraftKings quarterback. I can tell you he was absolute dog shit.
Okay, he scored 9.5. How many times has Trevor Lawrence topped that this year?
I would guess.
Well, he didn't pass. Definitely didn't.
Not last week.
Every game except for last week. No, but he has an 11, 14, 15, 14, 18. He has one. He doesn't have a 20-point game on the year. He doesn't have a 19-point game on the year.
Really? Even that Bills game, he didn't have it? I guess ETN's scoring all those touchdowns, isn't he?
No, 15.7.
All right. I'll
315 and 1.
I'll put him behind Josh Dobbs just for you.
That's going to look so stupid come next week. You're going to bring that. You should just bring that up right off the cuff right next week. How did Trevor Lawrence do? 3 touchdowns and 350 yards. Watch.
I think it's actually, I mean, I'm trying to click on Tennessee here. Do you have Tennessee's schedule up by chance?
For the rest of the year? Yeah, I can pull it up.
No. Who they've recently played? Because I feel like they've just played a string
Yeah,
of really
yeah.
crappy quarterbacks.
They did. I mean, after their bye, after facing Lamar, they faced. Was that still Ritter at that point?
Yeah,
it was Atlanta,
They faced Ritter,
and then Pickett and
Baker.
Mayfield.
So,
But they'd already been playing better since, I think. Well, I mean, Cleveland was terrible at that point. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow was Joe Burrow, maybe not. Indianapolis, Lamar. So, again, that's what I'm saying. Their pass defense has just been okay. It's not glorious, but that could be part of it too. But and the reason I'm basing it off of one of those metrics, because we can sit there and say like they've looked better, but they've also, you just brought up the quarterbacks they faced, but the pass EPA suggests that they're also playing good overall.
okay. What about Justin Fields for the week? I have him at number 18 against Detroit. I feel like he's going to be.
I'd play him higher.
Would you? Would you play him over Lawrence?
I would.
Okay.
For the upside. It's quarterback.
Would you play him over Dobbs?
Dobbs, Minnesota, we already talked about it. Denver. I could see the case for it. If you wanted to shoot for the upside, it's much riskier though. Much riskier though.
I mean, I don't know how much more risky it is. Like, Josh Dobbs has been great and everything, but if he had, like, I've played Josh Dobbs this season. He was not good.
Has Josh Dobbs done as bad as Sam Howell? Because Sam Howell has 2 really terrible games. Has Josh Dobbs ever been that bad?
I feel like he has, but don't quote me on that.
Well, I am quoting you on that because I'm pulling it up to find out. And now I'm going to look for Josh Dobbs. By the way, a QB7 on the year, which is just insane. Not in points per game, obviously. Josh Dobbs has an 8.7. There you go, against Cincinnati. And then week 1. But since week 1, that 8.7 is the only game. He has a 10-point game mixed in there too, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He has 5 20-point games.
He likes to run. That helps.
That's what I was kind of thinking in my mind, is if it's been as bad as Howell because he runs.
I mean, Howell's supposed to run, isn't he?
No, he's like Ben Roethlisberger. That's who I compared him coming out of college. Like, yeah, he'll run if he has to.
He ran against Seattle, put the ball on the ground, so maybe he runs less now.
And Daniel Jones, at least he didn't trip over himself.
That is true, but poor Daniel Jones. Do you think he ever starts again for the Giants?
Yeah, because I think the Giants are stupid enough that if they don't end up with the number 1 pick, taking one of the other quarterbacks that's not named Kelly Williams and playing this whole like, let's give him one more year and make it an open competition. You didn't prove enough, so we're going to stick with Daniel Jones. It's going to be like to the middle of the season when they finally pull the plug, because they can't get away from his contract till after next year when they can cut him for 22 and save off the 75 owed.
All right. Last
Can
thing.
you tell? Can you tell I already looked into this? I cannot wait to get Daniel Jones off this team.
I would blame Saquon Barkley for all of this, by the way.
No, blame the Giants front office that should have franchised Daniel Jones inside Barkley, or
that's
just went
what
the
I'm
Baker
saying.
route.
I mean, he could have just cut Daniel Jones. That would have worked as well. But if you had just, if Barkley had been more reasonable with his contract demands, then they could have signed Barkley and then franchised Daniel Jones, and then you wouldn't have to sign him to the big deal.
That's fair. Or not realize that they so overexceeded expectations. The winning that playoff game last year was the worst thing that could have happened to that organization.
I think you're right.
Because it's not. Let's be real. It's not just Daniel Jones. Look at the receiver room. Look at the defense. This team is easily a bottom 5 talent up and down the roster. There's no way they should have been in the playoffs last year.
Well, their best receiver is Isaiah Hodgins, and they don't even use him.
I know. And then Sterling Shepard showed back up.
I saw
How
that.
about that?
Defenses for week number 11. I have Dallas at number 1, then Cleveland, Detroit, Washington, and San Francisco. That's the top 5. Seattle against the Rams, even if Stafford is starting. Jacksonville, Miami, Buffalo, Baltimore on Thursday night. Then the Jets against Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Houston, the Giants, and then Cincinnati. What do you think?
I was looking through the waiver pickups I have, and I think you pretty much mentioned everybody. Do you have the Chargers in there?
I don't have the Chargers in there.
I think they're a worthy flyer in the range of. Scroll back down because I was looking at your rankings at the same time as Cincinnati. Cincinnati. What do we got for Cincinnati at Baltimore?
Yeah.
I think I would lean personally. I think the way the Chargers defense is played, especially since they got rid of Jackson this offseason, I think I would play the Chargers slightly over Cincinnati. But at that range, I mean, we're talking flyer defenses at that point.
I will put them in at number 15 just for you.
Oh, thank you.
They didn't look so high.
That's two favors you did. So they're so gonna blow. Both these things are gonna blow up in my face because you did them both for me.
Well, I have them at number 15 in the defense ranking, so they are below. They are a below average play on a 28 team slate.
That's certainly fair with one of the better defenses on a bye in the Saints.
Are the Saints one of the better defenses?
They still are.
Fantasy wise?
Yeah,
Really?
almost. Let's see. Saints are. I'm trying to find them. Where are they?
They're probably not even on the list because they're so low.
They're 11th. There they are.
That's barely top 10. I wouldn't say that's like great by any means.
No, but it's a top 10. It's a top 12 defense that's on a bye.
Let's see. Yeah, but defense is week to week. You know this. In points per game,
I
they're
do.
actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th. They average, they're 7th. They're 7.9 tied with the Steelers D in points per game. Do they have one big one? Is that what happened? Yeah, they have that 22
No,
point. They had the 22-point week against New England.
No, Patriots. So there you go. But that's what I'm saying. It's like matchup top 12 play.
Past 5 games for the Saints against Houston, Jacksonville, Indy, Chicago, and Minnesota. 6-4-3-12-0. Past 5 weeks.
That's not how the math goes.
Well,
But yeah. So yeah. But it's an option. I'm just saying they would have been on the list. I was making the argument for you that the list isn't that great if you're talking about 15.
I suppose Bills D is still 6th in terms of fantasy points per game, which is hilarious.
How? It's just that one game?
It must be. Let's see. They scored 31 against Washington.
It's just the Washington game.
Yeah, they scored 31 against Washington. In the past 5 weeks, they're 0-5-1-6-4.
There you go.
It's tough. It's tough out there as a fantasy defense. Only 3 teams are averaging over 10 points per game as a fantasy defense. Can you name the 3?
They're 10 points over defense. Ravens.
They're 1. They're 3rd.
1.
10.7 per game.
Are the Browns?
The Browns are number 2 at 11.1 per game. Who blows everyone out or gets blown out?
Oh, Cowboys.
Cowboys, 12.1
Cowboys
fantasy
are a good
points
one.
per game.
Steelers? You mentioned the Steelers.
Yeah, the Steelers are tied with the Saints. They're 7.9.
Okay. Tim's Jets?
I mean, you already got the 3. You got Cowboys, Browns, and Ravens.
Oh, I thought we were doing 5 for some reason.
Oh, no. It's the Chiefs, then Jets are 4 and 5.
Okay. Chiefs are still that high.
Yeah.
I thought Chiefs had fallen off recently too. But this is why I say, like, fantasy defense scoring needs to be rejiggered, like, so bad. Like, give points for 3 and outs. Give points for forced 4th down turnovers because it's essentially a turnover. Give points for...
You're doing this thing again where you're making scoring too complicated and you're turning it into fantasy baseball. And if you do that, then no one's going to fucking want to play anymore.
No, this is giving points for things defense should get points for. And guess what? Guess what? I don't know one single site out there where it makes you do the math. It does it for you.
Yeah, but I like to know. I like to keep a running tab of what's going on in my head. Like, I don't want 3 and out.
Then don't do about the last thing I was about to mention. Don't do the yards allowed then.
Oh yeah, don't do that. And just for the love of God, don't play IDP. Like, just get a hobby or something like that.
Oh, Jamie Eisenberg has me sucked into one of the only IDP league I play, and somehow I'm still in first, but I don't know half the IDP guys that I keep picking up.
I just like you just get a better hobby than spending all your time playing IDP fantasy football.
At least don't make it 9. He's got 9 IDP players. Like 3. 3's fine.
So he found like the other 11 people on Earth who want to do this and formed a league?
Well, this is also, I've known Jamie forever, so yes.
So he found like the 5 people on Earth who want to play in this league and like coaxed a few of his friends into it as well. Just to form a league.
That's essentially what it is. Yeah, because Heath and Dave are both in it over at CBS, so there you go. There's 2 that you already knocked off. I've known them forever, so there you go. You've already knocked off 3 teams right there.
Hey, look, Nando's there, buddy. I bet you Nando's not playing in it.
He doesn't play. Nope, he doesn't play in the IDP. He plays in the charity one.
Of course not. Now, I know Nando too well. He's got things going on. Doesn't have time to go play IDP fantasy football. Kidding me?
Nando's so much so that the one year in the charity one, I finished last place. He's like, we're going to give money because Jake finished in last place.
Great guy. Always a great guy. Love Nando. Anyway, that will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. For week number 11, all the rankings are down in the description right now. Smash like and sub to the channel while you're here. And your waiver column comes out at midnight on Monday. Then your rankings Tuesday at midnight on theathletic.com.
Yes, sir. I need a new idea for the top 10 fun ranks this week. I ran out of ideas.
Top
Thank
10,
you.
top 10 local places to your area where you can get happy endings. And it's like a TripAdvisor column, too.
Bill Burr actually joked about that when I saw him in stand-up last week about happy endings. That it was similar to like pitchers, and you should have the person who really knows how to do the massage and then bring in the lefty.
You see, you said Bill Burr. I thought you said Joe Burrow when you said it really quickly. I was like, really? Joe Burrow making Robert Kraft jokes, huh? Interesting.
No. Bill Burr. Yes, Bill Burr.
Bill Burr. All right. That'll do it for me. Get in that draw. Could be up to $30,000 being given away by our good friend Tyler Tambolini of ShipItNation.com. Code Mayo always works over there. Plus, they have live free shows on Mayo Media Network. So if you have questions, you can go ask the experts at ShipItNation.com. But the big thing is to subscribe, turn on auto downloads, rate and review 5 stars. The Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can find the links both in the newsletter, which is completely free to join, or at the very top of the description. Made it easy for you, so please help us out. And hey, who doesn't want to win up to individually $5,000? That'd be nice, right? Especially before the holiday season. Anyway, I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!